Am I the a-hole? For getting upset after my husband asked for a paternity test. My husband, 30 male, and I, 27 female, recently welcomed our baby boy, just a few months ago. Adjusting to life with a newborn has been challenging, but until recently, I had no reason to think he was unhappy or suspected anything. 2 days ago, out of the blue, he asked for a paternity test. He insisted it wasn't because he suspected me of cheating, and that he only wanted peace of mind, mentioning how he'd hate to unknowingly raise a child who might not be his. I was heartbroken. To me, asking for a paternity test feels like an accusation of infidelity, even though he kept insisting that wasn't the case. But during the conversation, he even brought up little incidents that supposedly fueled his doubts, which only added to my hurt and confusion. Overwhelmed and in tears, I ended up shouting at him and leaving to calm down. The next day, I couldn't bring myself to talk to him, and last night, he confronted me about the silent treatment, and we ended up in another heated argument. Since then, we haven't spoken. Honestly, I'm at a complete loss. I love him deeply, and I don't want our marriage to unravel, especially now, with a baby involved. This is the first time we've had a conflict like this, and I'm struggling to make sense of it all. So, am I the a-hole for reacting the way I did? Is there something I'm missing? Now for some comments. My son's father asked me if our son was his. Found out later he was cheating on me pretty much the whole 10 years we were together. For every finger you point at someone else, there are 3 pointing back at you. I never gave my ex-husband a reason to think I was cheating, but every time he was up to something, I'd suddenly get accused. Same with my ex-wife, she accused me every time she was cheating. And then, surprised Pikachu face, was shocked when I discovered her affair. She cheated at least 3 times that I know about. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not supporting my wife's decision to punish our son and letting him go to a party that will be tonight? This is a throwaway, but this involves some absolute high school drama nonsense that someone my age should have to deal with. But maybe I am tripping and missing something. So here I am. I, 45. Male, share a daughter, 17, and son, 15, with my wife, 41. My wife's best friend, who is 40 female, has 2 daughters, 18 and 15. My wife's best friend moved to our town about 6 years ago. My wife and her best friend have been not so subtly pulling for the 2 15-year-olds to end up together. I find this weird and low-key creepy. About 2 years ago, my wife's best friend's youngest daughter appeared to have developed a crush on our son. My son talked to me about it, and he had 0 interest. So, we discussed how to tactfully but firmly let her down. She has approached him again a number of times over the last couple of years, and he has reaffirmed his lack of interest. This past summer, my wife's best friend's oldest daughter turned 18. Her parents went all out for her birthday. It was a whole weekend of festivities and events. One of the events was a couple's dinner for the oldest daughter and all her friends in couples. The younger daughter of wife's best friend wanted to go to the dinner but did not have anyone to go with. She asked my son, and he agreed to go, but only as friends and just this one time. So they went together. After the dinner, the couples all watched 10 Things I Hate About You together. It was my son's first time seeing it, and he commented that he thought the Heath Ledger singing scene was cool. This is important later. My business partner, 44 male every year, for the last 5 years throws a huge Halloween party. All our employees are invited along with close friends and family. The party requires a costume, and at this party there are prizes for best individual costume, group costume, and couples costume. My wife's best friend and her family are obviously invited every year. This year, the Halloween party is tonight, October 26th. So, let me get to the reason I am here. About a month ago, my son was at school, and coming towards him was my wife's best friend's younger daughter with a whole song and dance routine. She ends it by asking him to be her date for the Halloween party. My son was so frustrated and reiterated for everyone to hear that he is not interested in her like that at all. Of course, it being high school, some kids laughed and she ran off crying. She has been bullied pretty badly because of it. My wife's best friend is livid and thinks our son owes her daughter an apology. My wife agrees and thinks, at a minimum, he needs to defend her against the bullying. My son has said that for 2 years, he has told her he is not interested and reiterated it over and over. At this point, he thinks it's kind of harassing to him, and it is not his role to defend her harassment of him. I agree with my son. My wife and I have had a number of disagreements about it since it happened. Well, things have intensified in the last couple of weeks or so because another girl, who wife's best friend's daughter apparently does not like, asked our son to be her date for the party, and he agreed. They are doing a pretty dope couple's costume. This has really pissed off my wife because she thinks he should, at least, not go to the party with another girl out of respect. I think that is ridiculous. I plan on driving them to the party with me. My wife now does not want to go to the party and is saying I am an AH and raising our son to be one. So, am I the a-hole? Now for some comments. Not the a-hole. Tell your wife consent goes both ways. What if it had been a boy harassing her best friend's daughter for 2 years? Would she still push for the daughter to give that boy a chance? Or to defend that boy or force her not to go to a party with another boy out of respect? She and the best friend are perpetuating some pretty damaging behaviors in the best friend's daughter. It's also detrimental to the daughter of best friend. She needs to accept that rejection happens, and it's okay. He doesn't like her. And had she recognized that earlier, she would have saved herself the embarrassment that she endured at school. Her mother and OP's wife set her up for failure. She'll learn a valuable lesson in resilience, but only if her mom stops pushing. I completely agree with you, OP. Your son shouldn't have to apologize for being honest about his feelings. He's not responsible for anyone else's emotions, right? I'd be making that clear to the son as well. He needs to know his consent matters. Literally only thing I could maybe see asking him to apologize for would be having gone to the dinner in the first place, LMAO. Last story. After 2 years of promises, they gave my promotion to the worst person on the team, so I left and let them sink. Before reading, this is not the am I the a-hole story. I basically don't know how to use this platform. I'm sorry in advance. Back to the story. I've been at my company as a graphic designer in the marketing department for around 3 or 4 years. When I started, it was just 3 of us in the team, including a team lead I respected deeply. The team was small, but I loved the creative challenges and working closely with my coworkers. As our team grew, I quickly stood out as one of the most dedicated and fastest designers. I trained every new hire, led projects, delivered presentations, and even organized workshops for the team. Over time, I took on the kind of responsibilities you'd expect of a senior designer and poured everything into each project. Then, things started to change. My team lead left, which meant even more responsibilities landed on my plate as we had no replacement for over a year. It felt like a perfect opportunity to prove myself and show that I was ready for the senior designer role. I was told during my annual review that I was on track, and if I kept up the hard work, I'd be promoted after another year. But that's when I saw something that made my stomach drop. A newer coworker, a notoriously lazy, toxic type, had just been promoted to senior designer. I was stunned. She'd joined the team much later than me, did the absolute bare minimum, and constantly passed her unfinished projects to me because I was fast. I couldn't believe it. She didn't have a clue about design strategy, stakeholder management, or even team collaboration. Most of the time, she'd sweet-talk the higher-ups, taking credit for things she didn't do and then passing any real work to the rest of us. What really killed me was seeing her parading around, acting like a leader, telling everyone else how to work, and setting team guidelines. She barely followed herself. She even had a reputation among stakeholders as impossible to work with. They frequently requested that I handle their projects instead of her. After months of this, we finally got a new team lead, and I saw a chance to fight for the promotion I'd been promised. I put together a presentation with all my project successes, positive feedback from coworkers, and a portfolio of senior-level work I'd been handling. The team lead was impressed and acknowledged that I was one of the most talented designers on the team. I thought finally, someone saw my hard work. But not long after, the same coworker messed up a big project, affecting not only my workflow but also my reputation because she'd looped me into it to cover for her. I corrected her work, but instead of appreciation, she stormed into the office and started yelling, accusing me of embarrassing her in front of the stakeholder. I calmly explained that I was simply following project guidelines, which she had ignored. When our team lead got involved, he agreed that I was in the right, but he still seemed scared to confront her fully and ended up coddling her to keep her quiet. By the time my next annual review rolled around, I'd had enough but held on to a shred of hope that I'd finally be recognized. Instead, my team lead gave me a 3-star rating out of 5 and told me I should be more present. He had the nerve to compare me to the lazy coworker, saying I needed to emulate her social presence. I was floored. I'd been the one keeping our team running, training new hires, checking on everyone's work, even fixing her mistakes, and this was how he rewarded me? I refused to sign the review papers, telling him I wouldn't be proving anything else. I told him that if he thought she was senior material, then he could let her do the work. I'd be stepping back and doing only what was required. No more senior-level tasks, no more training, no more rescuing her half-finished projects. He started panicking, offering me the promotion in 6 months instead of a year, but I was done. 2 weeks later, I accepted a higher-paying job offer and handed in my notice. My manager was shocked, begging me to stay and asking what he could do. I told him there was nothing he could say that would make up for the years of disrespect. As soon as I decided to leave, I knew exactly how I'd handle my departure. Since all those senior tasks were no longer my problem, I wasn't going to spend my final 2 weeks writing down guidelines or passing on any of the knowledge I'd built up over the years. After all, if I wasn't senior enough to earn the title, why should I act like one? Almost 60% of the work processes, design systems, and templates that kept our team afloat were things I had built from scratch, and I knew it would take them months to untangle the gaps I was about to leave behind. The team leader must have realized this pretty quickly, because every day he started showing up at my desk with another desperate plea for help. Just a few guidelines, he'd say, or just walk us through the workflow one last time. Each time, I reminded him that he'd refused my promotion, and as I saw it, that meant my time and expertise were no longer his to ask for. The day I handed in my badge and walked out of that building was the first time I felt genuinely free in years. Now I'm in a new job where my contributions are recognized and rewarded. Looking back, I can only hope this experience was a lesson for my former team lead and his senior designer. Maybe they'll learn what happens when you ignore someone's hard work and loyalty for the wrong reasons. But honestly, that's no longer my problem. Update. First of all, thank you all for reading my post and sharing your own experiences. It really helps to move on from that place, even if I can't forget what I went through. It's shocking to see how many people have dealt with the same thing. I hope this post will remind you to value yourself and maybe push you out of your comfort zone if you're not getting the respect you deserve. Some of you thought my story sounded too good to be true or felt I was overplaying my talent. Normally, I'd be modest, but when you put in years of work, gain experience, and finally learn your worth, you stop holding back. Everyone has a breaking point, and this was mine, a major wake-up call that I'd had enough. Before I jump into what happened at the company after I left, here's a bit more context. My team lead was completely new to managing, and he just didn't know how to handle the conflict. As for my lazy coworker, I get why some of you might think she slept her way to the promotion, but that wasn't it. She was way too chatty, loved sharing her secrets, and with the office being a gossip hotspot, we'd all have known if something like that was going on. She simply knew how to use her charm and manipulate people, which got her ahead. So, what's the real tea? What happened after I left? I'm still close with my former project coordinator, aka my work bestie. And if anyone had the inside scoop, it was her. They did try to get my lazy ex-coworker to step up and be a better teammate, but, surprise, nothing changed. She's still the same, and they seem stuck with her behavior. As for replacing me, they had to spread my workload across 3 to 4 junior designers. To manage this, they merged 2 teams, but that caused some frustration. Now the juniors were on the same level as the mediators, and people were not happy about that. They also lost a lot of files and work that I'd done, so they had to redo it all from scratch. In the end, nothing major happened to the company, but they're still struggling to deal with my lazy ex-coworker who's managed to shove her responsibilities onto the juniors. So, a win-win for her, I guess. Lesson learned. Everyone is replaceable, but it's essential to know your worth. I absolutely love my new workplace. I'm working with my amazing old team lead who left before this mess. My hard work is recognized and appreciated. And the best part? We don't have junior or senior titles here. We're all equal as graphic designers, and it's refreshing. Now for some comments, I mean totally not the a-hole. But, hey, at least she has good social presence. That's clearly more important than production and success. I agree. It's frustrating how often social presence gets prioritized over actual hard work and results. It sounds like you put in so much effort and talent, only to have it overlooked for someone who just knows how to play the game. You did the right thing by moving on to a place that values your contributions, OP, not the a-hole. It's amazing how a toxic environment can drain your creativity. Glad OP stood firm in decision to not give any more intellectual input to their ungrateful ass. Honestly, it sounds like you handled that whole situation like a boss. You gave everything to that job, proved your worth time and time again, and still got sidelined for someone with zero dedication. After years of promises that never materialized, the reality of being overlooked for someone clearly riding on your coattails, and then some, was the final straw. When you decided to pull back and only do what you were required to, you showed them exactly what happens when loyalty and hard work aren't appreciated. And when you left without passing along the work processes and templates you'd created, they were left to handle the mess they made, a fitting reminder of what they lost. Now, at your new job, you're finally being valued as you deserve. Let them sort through the chaos on their own. Your dedication's gone to a place that actually respects it.